Okay. We continue in Hemshech Ayin Beis, page 610, Tafresh Yud, chapter Shin Aleph, chapter 301. In the middle of the 74th discourse. And to sum up the theme where he's addressing now, he's now applying the four different types of imbalances, the four different possibilities of dysfunctionality in the imbalance between, the incongruity of the symmetry between Er and Keli, between Ayin and Yesh, between self and selflessness. So there were four different ways that there can be an imbalance. So he's applying it now. It began in chapter 300. And this mimer began applying it to neshama and guf. Body and soul, or soul and body, or soul and divine soul and animal soul. Talk about when he's saying Chassidus, we say guf and nefesh habamis, you mean body, and then animal soul. But both refer to more or less the physical dimension of our existence. And obviously a body is inanimate, but an animal soul is not. So when you say bodily desires or bodily temptations, we're talking really to the animal soul, because obviously a corpse doesn't have tivus. So these are the two levels of Er and Keli. Or as he puts it, that within us, each of us, we have Ma and Ban. Ma is the human within us. Ban, which is Gematria Adam. Ma is Gematria, the same number as human, Adam. And Ban, the Gematria Behema, is the animal part within us, our animal soul. So we have both parts. I'm summing up. That's Zera Adam and Zera Behema. And now these two have to, the purpose of existence is that these two dimensions don't just coexist, but they become one unit. Like you said earlier, B'chol Avavcha. We say, V'ahavta Hashem Elokecha b'chol avavcha. We should love God with all our heart. Why is it twice love Avavcha? Because it has to be not just the Nefesh Elokis, but also the Nefesh Habamis. B'shnei Tzarecha, the Gemara says, that you should serve God with both sides. So the goal isn't just to eliminate the Yetzer Hara, but to align it, to harness it, and to align it, and they should each feed each other. So just like the Er and Keli, energy and container is about joining, fusing together, and not one is weakened or compromised. Here too, Nefesh Elokis, Nefesh Habamis, the ultimate goal is that they work together as one. So the Ruach HaAdam, but they're like Er and Keli. The spirit of Adam, like the pasuk says in Kehelis, like Er. Er is Ayin that's drawn upward. It's transcendence. The Adam within us, Ma within us, the Er within us, our Neshama Nefesh Elokis, is drawn upward like a flame that reaches upward. The Keli, on the other hand, our bodies and our Nefesh Hativis, Nefesh Habamis, for all practical purposes, Nefesh Hativis means natural soul, Nefesh Habamis means animal soul. For practical purposes here, Nefesh Habamis, Nefesh Hativis, Guf, is all in the same category. They're not divided, separating between them. Just for the record, people sometimes are not aware of this. Nefesh Habamis, the difference between Nefesh Habamis and Yetzer Hara is Nefesh Habamis is the whole Nefesh, from Chachma through Malchus, and Yetzer Hara is the Midas of Nefesh Habamis. Is from Chesed to Malchus, just for the record. They're distinguished. So Yetzer Hara is like the Midas of the Nefesh Habamis. So bottom line is a component that the Nefesh Habamis on the hand like Ruach HaBehema Yoredis Lamata. So here you have an air going up, a Keli going down. They're both now inside of us, because now we're applying air, Keli, and Aveda within us. And how do these two work? The Nefesh Habamis, on a very practical level, today says, I need to go to work. We're not even talking about things that are usur. We're not talking about forbidden things, prohibited. I need to go to work, I need to eat, I need to sleep, I need to take care of my needs, health, and other matters. The Nefesh Elokis says, I want to be close to God. I want to find out what my purpose is. What's my shlichus today? These two can be in major battle. They don't have to be, but they could be. And we see it all the time. Who's going to win out? Who's the dominating voice? So in most cases, like he says in Tanya, Rosh V'Tevlei, they both have a voice, and the Nefesh Habamis usually is the dominating force, but not always. And they battle. A Beini, of course, is someone that controls the Nefesh HaBahamis, the Machshava, Dibur, Ma'aseh. But the bottom line is there's a battle going on. And in the words of Ayin Beis, it's the battle between Eir and Keli as it plays itself out in our personal lives. So this is very vital, because understanding the battle is one thing, but you also want to understand your enemy. When I say enemy, it's not really an enemy, but you want to understand what does the battle consist of. And that's why it's critical to understand the 4 different ways how this Eir and Keli can be imbalanced, and then to learn how to balance them. So in chapter 300 that we just learned, so after discussing at length, he first discussed more the properties of neshama. So the whole thing about neshama is tava aliyah, and even the neshama as it comes out of the containers and it's distant from the kav. I'm summing up the chapter. Even there, it still retains its aliyah nature. It's a critical component, because if neshama and a guf at some point gets so concealed that it loses its aliyah, its transcendent nature, then we're back to, then there's no battle. See, Eir and Keli, the problem is, Eir always is an Eir, and the Keli is a Keli. That's why they have an issue with meeting. So that's why he makes a long case to explain that the neshama, even after all the concealments, after all its yerida, still retains its fundamental transcendent nature. And he goes further, even more than Eir, because Eir is only a reflection. Whereas the neshama is chelik mina etzem, chelik elekam emal mamash. Neshama is a piece of the etzem, not the entire etzem, but a piece of it. Whereas light, energy, is just a reflection of the etzem. And there are many implications of that, because Raya, Eir Ein Sof on its own could not in any way make a dira b'tachtenim in this world. You need a neshama that has much more intensity. It's a piece of the etzem. Now, Eir reflects what God wants. But think of Eir as more like Torah. Torah is Torah Eir. But you need a neshama to dance with the Torah Simchus Torah, because a neshama goes into a body, and there it refines the world. Eir Ein Sof retains the value. So he's saying that the neshama is more than the Eir. But regardless, no matter how you explain it, he says whether the Sheresh Neshama is from the Eir or higher than the Eir, the bottom line, it retains the nature of, it's a piece of the etzem, and therefore it retains that nature. And the behema, on the other hand, is the keli that is downward, that focus downward, meaning toward survival. Like a behema looks down on the ground. It sees earth, which means in simple terms, for us, we sense gashmis. You wake up in the morning, you feel the gashmis of the world. You need to remind yourself, that a soul, to remind yourself of ruchnius all the time. So here you have these 2 forces now at work. And then he goes on and says in this chapter, now here's the question. Here's the first imbalance. He speaks about neshama, that neshama as it comes into the body can be very revealed. There are neshamas that are very powerful neshamas. And as a, this is not parenthetical, but it's relevant. He explains how neshama really can't be concealed by any outside force, because it's an etzem. And etzem cannot be concealed by something. A reflection can be concealed. Sunlight can be concealed. You can pull down the shades. Etzem cannot be concealed. So how do we say then why then don't we feel the neshama inside the body? He says because the neshama concealed itself. Shema concealed itself, like he gave the example with the metzach, that when it pierces through the glow of the face, it's in a concealed way, but it's a piece of the etzem. So in the glow in the face that he spoke about a lot earlier. So etzem does not get concealed in a conventional sense. Anyway, but that's just to point out that the soul can be fully intense. So there are souls that are very high souls, but their bodies are not consistent with it. The soul's in one place, the body's in another place. Not like Moshe Rabbeinu, whose body was refined to the level of the soul, so the Keli and Eir are very commensurate to each other. So here's dysfunctional number 1, imbalance number 1, that the soul is very intense. And there are times where a person these type of souls get very much inspired and excited, but a little while later, it falls right back into Taivus. So you have here the 2 forces, the Eir and Keli have not met. Eir is Eir, so the soul retains its element. Like he explains, that the truth is you can't say that, as I said, not like the sparks of Toyu. The sparks of Toyu are concealed as they fall down. in Klippas or Shalosh Klipsot Meis. When it comes to neshama, even when it falls the lowest level, it never gets completely concealed. But within itself, there are two levels. There are different levels. There's a level where the neshama is more revealed, and the neshama less revealed. So he says, even on the neshama more revealed, this is where you have this inconsistency. Nevertheless, I'm just citing lines from page Tafreshut. And we have this, we find this with ourselves. You can have a BP Seirus, and at the same time, it doesn't in any way weaken the taiva. And a moment later, a while later, the taiva. So what's going on? And the truth is, both voices are true. Like he says, but then at the same time, it's only for a while, which means body and soul have not really learned to communicate. Nefesh Elokis can have an awakening, but it does not know how to harness the Nefesh Habamis. And that's basically really an analysis, I would say, of most people who have I'm not talking about someone who doesn't have an awakening at all. They have an awakening, and they could be very, very spiritual at the time, and it's not false. And a moment later, a while later, there's another part of them, which means Eir is here, Keli is here, and they have not met. Now, he doesn't say they haven't met at all, but bottom line, I mean, this is actually a pretty basic situation. So here's example number one of the first dysfunctionality in Tayu as it manifests in our avodah, in our work, in our life, where neshama and guf, or ma'aban, or eir and keli, however you use the words, are not in a real dialogue. And basically they're at war. But here, sometimes this one is winning and sometimes that one, and one does not sublimate, one does not subdue the other. So the inspiration, the divine inspiration does not subdue the Nefesh Habamis. Now this is a vital point because obviously the question is how do we repair that? We all have this. At times you can be a beautiful person, everything is, chassidus, you're refined and so on, and then you can suddenly behave in a way that's quite embarrassing. Something's out of control. We can have rage, we could have jealousy, we can stoop to other taivas, all the taivas he says in Tanya, and desires and stuff like that. And it's not like the neshama is not there. It's just like two neighbors. They're just inside of you. They're not consistent. And we all know that even when we're embarrassed of the other part, it doesn't mean we change it. The question is, how do you really get them to speak? That's obviously the goal here. But it's important to know that this is the diagnosis. Once you have the diagnosis, you can start being concerned. How do you address it? So now he continues Shin Aleph, where he's continuing. Remember, in the last chapter, the last few lines was, he gave Aseres Yemei Tshuva as an example. The Aseres Yemei Tshuva, the Kiruv Hamor, the source is close to the spark. So it affects the neshama to be very excited, very close to the divine, to godliness. And the last lines he said, whether the awakening comes from being close to Torah mitzvahs, or the awakening comes from tshuva, gedela, from a great high level of tshuva, return, either one, it's still not permeating the body, the guf and nefesh habamis. Shin Aleph, he continues now this Seder tshuva discussion. Shin Aleph, chapter 301. V'ni Seder tshuva now. The word v'hine, a few people ask me, what does it mean? Because a lot of times you find v'hine. Hine sometimes means behold, hine. In the Torah you find hine. Here obviously doesn't mean behold, he's not talking in that way. Here it's more v'hine, and now. It's like starting to say he could have said v'yiseder tshuva v'hine. It's like the beginning of and now, let's continue, so to speak. And now, v'yiseder tshuva, the awakening of tshuva, yesh levai b'shnei afanim. This tshuva that we just spoke about, that example, Aseres Yemei Tshuva, an awakening can be explained in two ways. Remember, all this is about the neshama. The oir is ablaze, but it's not commensurate, and it's not speaking to the keli, to the guf. So this, it says, can be explained in two ways. Ha'echad, the first way, ha'alef, she'eseres yishalei teiv lo yeshi lamata. That the awakening is a sensation, a feeling that it's no good. The person feels it's no good for me to be below. It means, in other words, as the soul is within the body, the person feels a certain, I don't feel good, in this material world. He does not find any pleasure and nachas How would you translate nachas ruach?
Satisfaction.
Yeah, any pleasure and satisfaction, miyeshe lamato levush beguf nefesh habamis, from being below inside of the garment of the body and the divine and the natural soul. So in other words, it's like a sense that this world is inferior, and there's it's like an existential crisis essentially. וזה שבשעת קירוב המויר וזה שבשעת קירוב המויר שנרגש בו אל עליון נעשה בארץ ארץ. And this thing, this sense that while the source, the moir, the luminary, the source, שבשעת קירוב המויר, when the source is closer, and the alien, this higher energy, senses. I'm just trying to translate literally. That during the time when this source is close, and we below, this person, this soul, senses the alien, the high energy level at this point. So in other words, so that causes that he should have this awakening. She doesn't feel good from being below, and he feels very limited, confined, constrained. Tsar is not tsar from the word pain, tsar from the word meitzar, like a boundary. So tsar, he feels narrow, he feels constrained, he feels trapped. Distressed, very distressed from this. And he desires and yearns, pines, very much, to be just in a state of transcendence, elevation, being encompassed, to be submerged in what is above. So basically, what he's saying here is that the first level of awakening is that that due to the fact that the source is close to him and he senses it, that causes him to feel a dissatisfaction, as you said, distress is a good word, and existential distress essentially. That type of existential loneliness or existential, feeling out of place is not. This material world is too confined, too constrained. So he wants to transcend. But this does not mean he's not doing an accounting. He's not being accountable and doing an audit of his nefesh, cheshbon nefesh, which is a soul search, soul introspection. Neither not in the negative things of his life, and neither nor in the good things of it. It's not like he has a calculated understanding or sense of what is no good for him below. Was, he says in Yiddish, was is nicht good, which means, just emphasizes, that which is nicht good. What is bothering him, what is troubling him.
Doesn't have a laundry list.
He doesn't have, right. Because it's possible, because his soul came down in a tzimtzum, in a concealed way as it descended lamata to below. As the soul went down, you have to say that its energy, its light, also was concealed as it descended. And definitely, and how much more so in his faculty, the soul's comprehension below, meaning in a body, can't be compared at all to its comprehension and perception above, as it is, in other words, before. Like the comprehension of souls in Gan Eden, in paradise. Meaning in the neshama, once it comes in a guf, it says in Tanya also, in Perek Lamed, it says that even the greatest tzaddik, who has the ultimate aviyira, you can't compare a soul's aviyira below in a body to the way it is without a body. Because without a body, it's unfettered. There's absolutely no limits. Well, let's see where this is going. And that's what bothers him. He senses this. In other words, okay, so he's saying two things here. Number one, that he definitely senses this tshuva, this awakening is definitely a sense of troubled sense, distressed soul. Tsar, when I say this, I mean he feels the pain, he feels the narrowness, limitations. At the same time, because because the soul has come down and it's concealed, it doesn't have the capacity of full expression and transcendence as it has without the body. But at the same time, he's saying that does not, but this does not make a cheshbon. He's not making an accounting. He's not having a grocery list, as you said. Is now another scenario. So one scenario is because the neshama came down at tzimtzum and its ava and its hasaga, its perception below, and comprehension can be compared to what's above. Another so-called source of anxiety would be that the negative is not just purely that the soul is now descended and more diminished in its expression, but it's actually from the halamas v'esteirim, the concealments and the coverings, shalamata below, umanyonim ahofchim, and the things that are opposite of the divine. In other words, it's really the opposite. One is from the soul. It's like one is almost like the lack of a higher spiritual transcendence, and the other one is actually all the negative stuff that you see in the world around you. You see a cruel world. You see selfishness. Mm-hmm. You see yourself tempted, and sometimes falling in the wrong way, etc. If he did have an accounting in his soul from the negative, from the fact that the tzimtzum, that the soul's gradations, the soul's concealments, and from this, that the faculties of his comprehension and his love and awe are not the way they are above. Isn't it then that everything has a tikkun? It's interesting, this expression. In other words, then everything has a repair. In other words, it's one thing to say, my life is not good. I'm not happy. My soul is not happy. Because I sense its descent, or I sense the opposite. I sense the comprehension that I don't have here is not like it would be on its own. My faculties are also, like you said, it's not just the soul. The faculties are compromised. I sense all the opposite things. That's one thing. But as long as you don't make an accounting, so that all you can do is complain. So he's saying, if he made an accounting, isn't it halay l'chol davar yesh tikkun? Isn't it the fact that everything has a tikkun, a repair? V'yishtadlan, then he will make an effort. Sheti hasagas nafshei, that the comprehension of his soul below should have, as much as possible, it should be in the good. So it's true, certain things we may not be able to overcome. But if you really make an accounting and not just say it's no good, then you can repair and you can begin to climb the ladder, so to speak, and do whatever you can. And another thing your accounting would do, you'd find, he would also find the virtues of being below. You know, there's an advantage. God sent us here. For whom Mashakosov, Vayorim Keren La'ame. And that's what it says. Vayorim Keren La'ame, that he lifted Keren. Keren means, Keren can mean a horn. But Keren means here,
Success.
Keren means like a principle. Huh?
Principle?
Principle?
The main thing, no?
No, you mean Keren and interest? No, that's not what it means. Vayorim Keren La'ame. Sometimes Keren has different meanings. It can mean a horn, but it could also mean like a crown, like a Keren Lami, like a Karnei Hoid, the rays of light. Michelangelo made the mistake. It says Karnei Hoid by Moshe Rabbeinu, so he gave him horns. But Keren also means Kerenoid. It means radiating light. But Yoram Keren Lami is when God lifts us up. Yoram Keren Lami, that he lifts up the nation. But Yoram. So if he even he had an accounting, number one, everything has repair. There's no such thing as despair. That's impossible to go anywhere. So he would begin to make an effort to try to understand godliness as much as he could and appreciate the good. And he would also, second thing, he would find the virtues, the advantages of being below, which is that below God sends us, we have an Ashacha Atzmis, the Torah. Torah is given dafke below. Remember, Torah le b'shamayim. The Malachim wanted the Torah. God said no. is given below because the Torah gives us a special power. This is shazeh dafka lamata, specifically lamata. Why uses the pasuk for Yarim Keren La'ameh? It's interesting because many places he could have just said Yofa Achas b'tshuva ma'asim tevin. 1 hour of tshuva ma'asim tevin on this earth is more valuable. Or Matan Torah is below, Torah below. But I guess a Yarim Keren La'ameh is a particular level here. That's dafka lamata. V'lo yesh la neshama l'mayla erkeza. The soul above doesn't have such radiance. Only after it works down below on this earth, and then it elevates to Gan Eden after passing away, after 120 years. Then it has a reflection of the Torah, and Vaveda, and the work that it did below, which is like the schar. Well, the mata dafka yesh hamshach atzmis the Torah, but only below dafka, specifically, explicitly below, where the soul is in a concealed fashion in the body and the nefesh and in the natural and animal soul. That's where you have hamshach atzmis, not just ziv. You have the actual essential transmission of Torah, shebo b'hasogya, that is manifests in comprehension. The tefus b'zeh, and we can grasp it. We can sit and learn Torah here with our minds. B'chinas atzmis, to the point that you can become one with it, to the point where you become b'chinas atzmis is more than just one, in an essential way.
Yarim Keren, he gives us a ray of hope.
Maybe.
A ray of help from the Torah.
Fine. I think it's more than just that, but the bottom line, it comes below. It's more than just hope. He's saying, okay. Now he's going back. Now, if the person had a faithful accounting in the negative of what he senses, from the concealments and the opposite things, meaning he means opposite of kedusha, then he would have also not just had a sense of despair. He would also then this feeling would have been in a form of bitterness. Meridus would mean bitterness in a good way. There was in Tanya, meridus and atzvos. Atzvos is despair, is demoralization, is depression. Meridus is like when we eat maror. It's empathy. It's sensing, it's sensing a lack of something, but in a way that's motivating you. So shouldn't be confused with bitterness as like a bitter person. It's more of a sense of the bitterness of being distant and feeling that we're not close. So you would have meridus, so if he would have had a cheshbon tzedek in all of this, in the negative and the opposite stuff, he would have in this a sense of that meridus, that bitterness, and he would have had a true return, that he should repair his ways. The Khan had an enemy said says. And in this state, in this situation, which is, as we said, an imbalance, where the soul does not speak to the nefesh habamis, they just are in two different worlds. Here, he does not have an awakening to correct, only to leave. It's like, I want to get out of here. Like someone saying, let's run from a burning building, instead of creating a game plan of, 1 second, what's the problem here? What are you doing? Where do you want to run? Where are you going? There's a purpose. So in other words, the idea that, he's amplifying this point, how the neshama, besides that it has an awakening, its relationship with the guf and nefesh habamis is, I just want to get out of here, instead of working with it, instead of make a cheshbon, everything can be fixed. It's rare to see. I haven't seen this so it's so relevant, because you have the situation all the time. People who just want to get out of a troubled situation instead of addressing it. Like he says, if you were to make a cheshbon, he says this as a rule, everything can be repaired. There's no such thing, something that can be repaired. Now, I understand we could ask the situation, what about their situations that seem irreparable or seem dead end? Okay, listen, obviously he's not addressing that type of saying, when you have faith and you have betach and everything is tikkun.
Ultimately, there is a tikkun for everything. Whether you are capable of accomplishing it, that's the question.
Okay, but he's saying, but bottom line is saying like this, just to say I want to run, I'm out of here, is definitely not going to get it. It's not enough. And that's where the Aaron Kelly, in other words, he's really giving away the solution here. That if you want the Aaron and Caleb to start speaking to each other, you can't just say, I don't identify with you, or you're a hell of a hester, or you're a concealment. I feel compromised because I'm in this body and soul. That's not enough. That's not a Seder Aveda, basically. Definitely not a Chassidus. But you have to figure out a way, Cheshbon Tzedek, and figure out what is exactly the problem, and see what can we do to elevate it, and realize that in this situation itself, there's something that you cannot achieve. So you think you're going to run back to heaven, you're going to miss the Atzmi Santera, the whole Kavanah is going to be missed.
But it seems like that.
Rak, let's say, she just wants to leave.
No, this is if it is Cheshbon Tzedek Bahaloto Maha Esterim. No? You know what? This is for the second cause. The first one, correct?
He didn't yet go to the second.
No, here, no, the first line, no? This is which is the second cause, correct?
You mean in second cause within the first? You see, he said.
Mendy, just around the corner. No, I didn't take him to time.
There's two things here. First, he said he said right at the beginning of the chapter. He said there's two. You can explain the Seiros of Tshuva two ways.
Okay.
He's still in the first way. He didn't yet get to the second one. Just for the record. In this first way, or maybe he did? No, probably not. He said two things.
One is because of it coming down.
The same thing.
And it's descending, and it's
descending.
so-called lacking what it has above.
And
second is the Hafchim, the opposite.
So it's like the second line, or the first top line of the top Reshut Aleph is saying that no, isn't it the second?
Yeah, but he said it also before. Look at the 6 lines from the bottom. He's speaking about both. You see? So it goes like this. I'll tell you. No, so you're making a good point. Let me tell you what he's saying. He's saying like this. He's saying the neshama. Well, let's start again. The neshama down below. Why is it feeling tshuva? Because it feels it doesn't have pleasure and satisfaction from this world. Because it's inferior. He wants transcendence. The soul wants that. Now there are two aspects to that. One.
So here.
One second. There's a few things here. There's two aspects to that. One, the soul itself has become diminished or concealed due to the descent. And it's ava v'yira, it's hasoge, its concept is not the way it is up there. Its faculties also have been compromised. Okay, that's one thing. Then there's another thing. It actually has to face all kinds of negative stuff. So both those reasons caused its neshama to not want to be here.
Right.
Now he says, but that's not. But what all the soul is doing is sufficing with not wanting to be here. It's not making a cheshbon nefesh. It's not sitting down and figuring out what is the problem. It's not focusing not on the negative, not on what's wrong, and not on the positive. It just wants to get out of here. So he says, if it would have made a cheshbon, both things would have been resolved. The first thing he says, then if he would have made a cheshbon, then everything as a tikkun, and he would have done everything, he would do everything possible to try to comprehend godliness as much as he could. In the good. That's the 6 lines from below.
So yeah, because it seems like going on the nefesh itself, correct?
Right.
That was the first cause.
Yeah, correct. Okay. And the cheshbon helps for both. Without a cheshbon, both are not resolved. So he says, if he had a cheshbon, and he would have tried to have a comprehension of godliness as much as he's able to in the good, another thing would have happened. He would find the advantage of being here below, because you have the etzem of Torah. And another thing now, if you have the right cheshbon, also dealing with the negative stuff, would cause him to have a meridus in the true tshuva, that he should fix his ways, and not just say, I want to get out of here. So cheshbon tzedek is required on all the dimensions. Right. That's the picture here. So the soul basically has distress or anxiety over many aspects here. You can really break it into 3. The neshama is tzimtzum, its koiches are also limited, its faculties, and the hafchim and the opposite. A cheshbon tzedek would say don't, and therefore he wants to run. I want it out of here. The cheshbon tzedek is what creates. That's the hanachas atzmuseh. That would create. Okay, one second. Let's divide and conquer. Let's figure this out. And it would say, okay, what's the problem? What's diminished? Try your best in comprehending God. Second thing, concentrate and know that the Torah was given here. And if you study and struggle in your Aveda, you get an Etzema Torah that's even higher than the Shama there. And the third thing is, you're bothered by the opposite things? Okay, feel sad, do tshuva, repair it. Don't just say, I hate it, I want to run. Repair it. But the situation here is, kan hare eina meseder l'saken. He's not being inspired to correct, to repair his way, his path. Let's say it's not to leave. Let's continue. Because why is this the reason? Why is this? Because he doesn't have an accounting and like a real list of what's really no good for him. All he knows is not good. He knows it's not good, that down here it's not good. Without any cheshbon, without any accounting, without any calculation. It's like a person who just feels, look, I deal with this in a different level. People sometimes in situations in life, and they just can't, they feel completely crushed or overwhelmed. They just want to get out of here. And the challenge is, how do you calm them down to say, let's see what we have to do here? In a way that's not going to just cause damage, or the right possible way. But when you're overwhelmed with the feeling, it's very hard to make a cheshbon because you're just completely consumed. Mm-hmm. So that's what he's saying. The point he's trying to say is how Eir and Keli are not speaking. The Eir senses something's wrong and wants to get out. Then it goes, now that's the loitev. If he actually calculated, something, there's a reason I'm here. In other words, both things. He's giving a formula here. First, just to say something is bad, it's like, when I wrote this book in Sfira Semer. So I remember one of the things that someone told me, which was very interesting, to say, let's go in the 49 days of the Omer to refine ourselves. Every day. That's very nice, but where do you begin? What do you mean refine ourselves? Like the Mittler Rebbe writes, his button is clearly to say things aren't good, doesn't help anybody. That's why you have consultants and analysts in business to come and define what exactly. Let's zero in. Let's a diagnosis. Or God forbid, a patient is brought into an emergency room, bleeding. The first thing you have to do is stop the bleeding because you can't even identify where the problem is. You see the bleeding, someone says, hey, this person it's over with. No, a doctor will come, stop the bleeding, clear away the smoke, so to speak, and identify, here's the root of the problem. What happens is, which is usually the cause of most problems, is when a problem settles in, you get overwhelmed by it, and then at a point, everything is a problem. Everything. It's never that way. There's always identifiable elements. If you don't identify, you just get overwhelmed with there's a problem. There's nowhere to go. I mean, that's really what he's saying. So there's two things. Firstly, when you see something negative, you can figure out what it is exactly that's bothering you. What is it that bothers you, and then address it. Then the same thing is the opposite. If you had a cheshbon in what is positive, then he wouldn't be so distressed from being below. He wouldn't be so distressed from being below. On the contrary, he would have pleasure from it. Because we read, as we said, because the Torah was given down here. This is the purpose. And now he's adding something more. If you had a cheshbon, even your desire to elevate would be better. In other words, it's not just because the kavanah is to stay below. He's now saying that a soul that is running, you could think, okay, at least it's getting transcendence, but it's not even getting transcendence. So he's saying now, if you did it with a cheshbon, even your transcendence, your desire to ascend, hoya b'hadraga, would be in a measured way. With a goal, with some positive goal, instead of I'm just running from the fire. I mean, this is tremendous Avedic chapter, and I think it's relevant to everybody. Because through this hanocha, through this avekleg, I say hanocha, this not assumption that you just
approach.
Or more than hanocha. Hanocha means when someone has a hanocha, that a commitment. This commitment, the tenuah zu, and this movement in the soul. Ba'atev lamata, in the benefits of why the Neshama is here below, through this, the elevation, the ascent, the transcendence of the soul would also be with a positive goal. Levukish is a desire, objective. Because then the aliyah, the transcendence would be with closeness and with dveikus and with joining, with cleaving. You know, dveikus. How would you translate dveikus? Clinging, but in a positive way. Dveikus, you know, kiruv means you get close. Kiruv is like when a fire, one flame joins another. They become dovuk. Dovuk be'ishtek.
Attachment.
Attached, right. Connected. Or through complete commitment and dedication. Whenever he says it in Yiddish, you can rest assured it's like a vital point. That you're committed, you're completely given over to the matter. So in other words, what he's added now is that if it was done with a cheshbon, and it wasn't just the soul is wants to get out of here, get out of this place, then so number one, you'd be able to start repairing the negative stuff. Two, you'd do whatever you can below. You'd appreciate why you're here. And that in turn would result, not only that you do, even your ascent, even your desire to elevate would be in a much healthier way, with an objective, in a kiruv dveikus, and with a complete dedication. In other words, in a certain way, the soul's wanting to get out of this darkness of this world, even though ostensibly it seems admirable, it's really yeshus. Because it's about me. I want to get out of here. It's not thinking about what the kavan is. And therefore, even its ascent, remember we spoke about when the air ascends because it's about murgish and tayu. The tayu, there's the ayin, it wants to go into the source, but it's about me. It feels itself instead of putting itself aside. So it doesn't care about the container. So the truth is, its aliyah is also really very much a selfish type of, so it's a distorted form of transcendence, basically.
This works for
In a certain way, in Bedakus, in a subtle ways, what another Vanaviyu did, they went in, they forgot about their body and soul and this, and they just got consumed by it.
So this works beruchnis, but the gashmus of Chassidus is in such a state. You know, how can you define that? You know, you have.
Let's first see what the formulas are here, and then we'll try to apply it to every situation.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I'm a big believer that Ayin Beis, if we do it right, it can be models for actual, real human models, life models. That's the whole point. But look, the Rebbe Rashab is obviously a Rebbe speaking on many levels here. But I see already, this is a lot of stuff can be taken from here. I mean, you could sense a lot of this in Chassidus in different places, but he organizes here in this context of Er and Keli, and remember, you want to really understand this, you want to go back to the 4 levels and see exactly, I mean, it's all like fits. This is a perfect avoid expression of Tayu's problems. Okay. However, this is when it's good, if you made a cheshbon. However, in the above mentioned manner, just like he has no accounting in his matters below, so also his desire and his yearning to ascend, to transcend, also has no goal at all. And it doesn't have true closeness. And surely it's not in a form of commitment and dedication. It's like a wild soul that is a free spirit and just wants to do what it wants to do.
Get me out of this place.
Right. Because he has no feeling in the sense of transcendence that he wants to get closer, etc. His feeling and he's completely consumed with only one thing. He doesn't want to be below. And his entire desire is to get out. That's literally what it means. Let's say he wants out. Very stubborn soul. It reminds me of myself at times. Yeah. You know the story with this husband and wife. For years, they're so busy they never talk to each other. They have no time. She's an executive. He's an executive. They finally say, "Let's make some time for each other," because they look at their calendars. Okay, what about next year on November or whatever. He looks not into it. I mean, the joke goes on. They finally find the day in 5 years from now where they're going to plan to be together. So they take a drive, they plan the day, okay, they're driving everything, they blocked everything else out. But of course, God helps, they get into a fight right before they begin. They're not talking to each other. So they're driving upstate, so all this, and and finally they drive by a farm, and the husband sees a mule, a jackass, chamer. So he says to his wife, "Any relation of yours?" So listen, so she responds, "Yes, by marriage." So that breaks the ice. So we all recognize this donkey, right? You want mind getting the door? I think someone's at the door. Yes, the cleaning. Yeah. Okay. Says all he wants to do is to leave. Exit strategy. But no strategy. That's the thing. It's only exit without the strategy. It's only exit without the strategy. I think that's what we'll call this. What do you think? Good title? Exit without strategy.
Sounds good.
Like jumping out of a window, but there's no fire escape.
Let's get out.
This is it. Now we get to the new. In general, this is because he doesn't want to be opposite of his nature. His nature is ayin. He wants ayin. That's all he thinks about. This is mamish like tayu. He said murgish, and he feels it, senses it. He doesn't want to be down below. That's it. He doesn't like it. I'm not happy here. Period. So I'm not my nature. Doesn't want to be opposite of his nature. His comfort zone. That's it. Doesn't want to go out of his comfort zone. Wants to be like his nature, which is to leave and to ascend.
Nefesh elokis, yeah? Teva of what?
In this, the teva of the nefesh, nefesh elikis. When but a distorted form. This is not functional. This is, okay, we finished one possibility. Now he's going to base.
Can the nefesh elikis really have such a distorted point of view?
He clearly says so. He started out, he said the nefesh elikis is very strong and alive. This would be almost every average nefesh elikis that senses, that's a free spirit.
But it's rebellion.
So what? You think Tayu is not a holy world? It's full of Eris of Elikos. What do you think? Tayu, there's no clip in Tayu.
We're not talking about nefesh elikis. This just sounds like the issues of nefesh Bahamut. So in other words,
No, it's not. Well, it sounds like it, but something? It's Eir. It's clear. He said, if you look at the previous chapter, he says, "Neshamas elu the einu mitvasim begeshem." Says it clear. He talks about. He's talking about neshamas b'shosh b'chinas ayin ma'abal. He says, speaks about it in a very high level.
They have no sense. That means the soul can have no sense.
Then
the neshama comes out, and the neshama has no sense at all. I mean, it's just yeshus. It's really everything is correct. Its perception is.
You never heard of anybody this way?
No,
I know people, for example.
No.
They stay and learn all day.
Sure, but this has.
Benazir, nafshei chashuk b'Torah. He wanted a desire to learn Torah. He never married, and it was hepech hakavana.
But isn't that because of the nefesh hamis?
No, nefesh elikis. That's exactly right. Rabbi Akiva's students, nefesh elikis. That's the whole point. It's all coming from a holy place. It's a holy war. Yeah, there's not nefesh habamis at all.
This is another.
How many times do you want me to repeat again and again? It's nefesh elikis.
Wait, I want to ask you another question.
He says it clearly.
This is not ma. This is tohu in Gili tohu.
This is ma. This is ma. The ma in his soul is out of control.
This is how the imbalance is.
Says there's no not ifs or buts. This is as clear and direct as it gets.
Okay, it's a mamish of pella.
It's not a pella at all. This is
one of the places that the nefesh elikis is true ayin. That's what he said. It's one of the 4 cases in the previous chapter.
Exactly.
Or maybe at least 3 of them that the nefesh.
Well, this is the first.
We keep saying that ma is a ticking. we're saying that the ore is too much. It's
This is not. This isn't. No, exactly. I'm saying it again and again and again.
Okay.
There's ma and ban inside the human being. It's the neshama and the guf.
Yeah, exactly.
There's divine soul and the animal soul. Now, air and keli. Just like the air and keli can be imbalanced, in the first dysfunctionality, the air is in its place and the keli is in another. That's what's happening here. The air, there's a big Osiris, the soul is awakened, it's inspired, but it does not speak to the body. It's not interested in the body, it's interested only in itself. It's a common problem. It's not the first place it says this is the whole Baal Shem Tov came to say this. Don't break the body, don't live ascetic lifestyle. It's all about the Nefesh Elokis. That's what he's saying. It's in the ayin. Yeah, it's lacking. It's a distortion. Okay.
The distortion is from.
It's rooted in kedusha. It's rooted in holiness, but it got distorted because it lost direction.
But the yom is the person's mind. You know what the person says? The light is too much, and I don't want to get out of it. And it was true that the light is too much, and the body doesn't want to take it.
I don't know about the body not wanting to take it. He's not talking. He doesn't even care about the body. He just wants it. Now, okay, that's the first possibility. Remember, in the beginning of the chapter, he says there's two ways to explain this awakening of tshuva. So here's a tshuva. He wants to get out, but there's no cheshbon and there's no calculation. There's no strategy. It's all about himself. It's his own nature.
Well, can I ask you a question to try and clarify what I think could be a problem? Your problem, your Cheskel?
Please.
Because we think God is perfect. So how could a part of God make a mistake, such a mistake? To be chepek hakavana. Is that your question?
Not exactly. It's close. Neshama's mom, it should be bitten. That's a question.
True godliness would not make such a serious mistake.
It's not true godliness.
But it's chepek hakavana.
But it's after the tzimtzum. It comes down here. It has the distortions. We're not talking before the tzimtzum. This is the challenges of life. Yeah, of course. You keep saying how it comes down to a place. Why is it distressed in the first place if it's all God? Because clearly it's not. It's in a world where it's not so, and it doesn't know how to deal with it. It's an immature approach to dealing with the challenges of life. To me, I don't see the problem here at all. Why it says in the Neshama has to be forced to go down below. Why does it have to be forced? Every second.
Who makes cheshbon?
Why does it have to be compelled to go down? Because on its own it won't go down. It doesn't want to go down. What do you have? All these three great people that went Rabbi Akiva. They went into the paradise. One went crazy, one went mad, one became an apostate, one died. The children of Aaron, Nadav and Avihu. They say we're greater than Moshe and Aaron, the Krevi HaKadosh, the closest. They went in great ecstasy. It was their ecstasy. It was their spirituality that undid them, not their nafshabamis. Because the power of the divine is very strong, and a soul, when it senses it, when the Eden heard the Matan Torah, every dibur, it says their soul expired and had to be brought down again. When a soul sees it, on the contrary, you could ask, I would wonder the other way around. How could a soul not be this way? I know it sounds selfish, but the soul, when it really sees the divine, all it wants is godliness. It's very hard for it to discipline itself, to have to come down into a body and so on and so forth. So you could actually make the argument the other way around. It's its most natural habitat. Now, remember, it's its bittul that is its undoing. If it didn't have bittul, it wouldn't have all these problems. It would just stay and be very happy down here. That's also not good. That's the opposite. That's going to be dysfunctional number 3. This is a state of ayin. Like he said, Toyu, by the way, Toyu is greater world than Atzilus. Don't dismiss the areas of Toyu. They're area of the Ein Sof. But what happens there is because there's lack of bittul and there's a lack of diminishment, whatever, all the reasons, the bottom line is they have ayin, and that's all they want. They want to be connected. The students of Rabbi Akiva that died in Sfiras HaEmer were because of their greatness, not because of their Nefesh Elokis. It wasn't because they were selfish. They were not involved in business. They were learning Torah. Each one had their way of learning Torah, and they couldn't tolerate the other one. This is the whole concept of intolerance that comes from the divine. Holy war is intolerance. Look, all religion can become passionate. I mean, I've seen families fall apart because one partner decided that he's more religious than the other and decided that's it. What's going on there? Now, there happens to be probably the Nefesh Habamis, to be very honest. The religion is part of the Nefesh Habamis. It's true. But there are people, for example, who we know are holy people, and they had big problems building homes and families and stuff like that. It was not good. Now, can you say the Nefesh Habamis has in some way affected the Nefesh Elikis? I wouldn't say that. I would say the Nefesh Elikis, because it's now been sent down to earth, sometimes it loses sight, and all it wants is to get out. Anyway, that's how he explains it.
So this is
Now, does he say, first of all, just for the record also, he doesn't say in this chapter it's the Nefesh Elikis on its own. It's the person, because of his Nefesh Elikis, that's doing this. So it's not the Nefesh Elikis on its own, left on its own accord, is obviously a divine force. But now it's inside of us, and we have to make a choice. So it's the divine drive of the Nefesh Elikis in the person. I should have qualified that. But it is coming from the Nefesh Elikis. Because he says clearly, it's Neshamis, he says clearly. These are great Neshamis, who are, Neshamis Demai. He says higher Neshamis that are not that concealed.
It seems to be the seichel.
Okay.
No,
No, absolutely he's not saying that, and that would not be consistent with this whole Eir and Keli. This is absolutely the Nefesh Elikis at work here.
And who is the?
But as the person, that's of course. Anyway, I don't see the problem at all. I don't understand.
And Nefesh Elikis, what's the difference?
Not the Venaviu, is it the Nefesh Elikis or Nefesh Habamis? Let's make it clear. The children of Aaron, I want to ask you a question. The children of Aaron, was it the Nefesh Habamis or Nefesh Elikis?
The heart, the Nefesh Elikis from Gansen.
In Gansen, because it says clearly Chaim, that it was due to their dvekus, their sedus, and it completely overwhelmed actually their Nefesh Habamis and their goof, or whatever.
When you just mentioned the difference between it's not the Nefesh Elikis, it's the person. What does that mean? It's the person.
It's not really make a difference. It doesn't make that much difference. It's true. There's two forces inside of us. And now in this case, this neshama, like he says, it's a neshama that has a higher sense of divine. The Shem Ma. He says it several places. That's a very revealed soul in this person. And then this causes an awakening in the person. He's very inspired by the divine. It's easy for him to get inspired. He gets excited. When it comes to Sesame Tshuva, he has an awakening of Tshuva. And he explained now how this awakening of Tshuva by this person who has a very strong neshama, how it can get distorted.
It has no good.
What it says here, missing hanocha. I'll use the words he says. Does not have the hanocha. These are the words. Yeah. Calling Yoni V'Shein that's Einle Hergus being Aliyah. His goal is only his own self. I don't know what the issue here is exactly. How did you understand the other Venaviu before you learned this mimer? May I ask? Did you ever think about it?
I never thought about it.
Okay, now you do. But I mean, this is it.
Why? So the question goes on the next step. If this is happening Nefesh Elikis and Zma, it just say fine, wherever I am, I'm okay because I'm bittul. We're talking about something that tziyah, shacha, that has no bittul.
As a hergish, it's a hergish. It's a bittul of morgish. It's a bittul. It has a lot of bittul. That's why it wants to go into God. But the bittul is about itself, not about anything else. Okay, that's exactly the problem. I tell you, that's dysfunction number one.
Ma is not tohu.
No, this
is
is
the same thing.
No, Eir of Toyu is like Ma.
It's like Ma.
It's exactly what he's saying. He's
fine.
comparing. Yeah, that's what you're saying. He's saying that like this.
I'm asking. I guess.
Ma is Eir. That's all it is. That's relevant here. This is like Toyu. This is an example like it's a Toyu. And why in Toyu is it understood? Toyu is also divine.
Tohu has no bittul. That's a chasard of Tohu. It has no bittul.
It does have bittul. It has bittul. That's why it wants to be connected to God.
It doesn't have bittul because it has itself.
No. With all due respect, it's exact words that are used by Toyu is using here. He says that it has bittul, but it's only about mortgage. It's a bittul that has mortgage. Same thing here. It has bittul and it's mortgage. That's what he says. No. I just don't. No. Bittul, but mortgage.
I'm missing the point. The point that I'm missing is I don't understand how you can say Ma'atz and it's Tohu. Because we
didn't say Ma'atz Toyu. It's an example of Toyu in Avodas Ha'adam.
Yeah.
Is this the whole chapter began? Everything we discussed before now applies to a person. Just like there's Eir and Keli have an imbalance, Eir and Keli inside of a person has an imbalance.
Okay.
That's the bottom line. There was bittul and mortgage. Here is bittul and mortgage. That's the bottom line.
And who is making the cheshbon nefesh? You're saying that the person.
It's the person.
Isn't this the Nefesh HaSichlis? It's a third element.
No,
here.
no. He's not bringing. He's not discussing that. He says the nefesh elokis and nefesh abamis. That's the two forces.
Okay.
But there's a battle, a war going on inside you. And then there's
Good.
the third,
Thanks.
and then
That's
there's
important.
the decision that which way to go. You have one voice, nefesh elokis. You have the second voice against it. What are you actually going to do? That's what this person made a mistake. He followed his nefesh elokis by mistake.
What are you adding here?
Meaning, it is the nefesh elokis, but he made a mistake with it. He took it too far. Meaning, he didn't bring in, like he's going to say, he didn't balance it properly. He didn't apply his mind to the problem. He just let his nefesh, his good feelings.
Yeah, this happens all the time. This happens all the time.
Run away with
this happens all the time. People have an awakening. That's a true awakening from nefesh elokis, and they don't make any cheshbon. They just like it, and that's where it stays and doesn't go any further.
So
it's not about transformation.
Yeah, so we're not supposed to follow what our nefesh elokis tells us.
He never said such. Let's not add words. He never said such a thing. He gave it a scenario of a dysfunctional thing. You're supposed to make a cheshbon tzedek. That's what you're supposed to do. If you have an awakening, you can't just have an awakening and say, I want to get out of here.
So that's a third element. The cheshbon tzedek comes from your nefesh elokis. That's what I'm suggesting.
I don't know. I don't like to add things. The Rebbe Rashab wanted to say it, he would say it. I don't need to add third things. What's wrong with?
Where does this cheshbon? It says it.
The
whole key here is the cheshbon tzedek. If you make a cheshbon tzedek, you're going to be all right.
The human being has two choices. You can just say, I want to get out of here, or you can make a calculation, a cheshbon tzedek, and do what has to be done.
This human being, this voice that says,
I don't know. To me, it's enough to say it's the person. I don't need a.
Okay, we don't need to call it.
You want to call it something, call it. But I can't, in any authority, say that that's what it's called. He's not using those words here.
All right. Okay. Then just say. But it's clearly not the nefesh elokis. It's another force which is going to guide the nefesh elokis.
It's a general question. It's a general
question. The nefesh elokis to with the cheshbon, so that it expresses itself in a constructive way and not a destructive way.
You could explain it that way. You could explain it in many ways. That's already Keston who makes choices in general when the nefesh abamis, nefesh elokis have a war. Who makes the choice?
That is the person.
So who's that?
That's what I'm trying to find out the name for. I call it the nefesh sequence.
Sometimes that's what it says, but yeah, okay, if that helps. Well, I didn't say he doesn't say that. I'm just saying he doesn't say it. But it's if that helps you. That's a separate discussion about what we're discussing here. That's another discussion.
Okay.
The Ayin Beis, and a second way, like he said at the beginning, the Sheish HaTshuva, this awakening by this neshama, can be in a different way. The Ayin Beis hu she'aseh teshuva hu shelei tevlei minyanev hapratim b'shum merav aseh tev. The awakening of tshuva is that it's not good. He doesn't feel good from his personal matters. The shum merav, which is avoiding bad, aseh tev, and doing good. And that brings him to a very excited state, a heightened state. Because truthfully, from the perspective of the neshama, of the soul, he cannot tolerate and contain things that are opposite of godliness. And therefore, he gets awakened with a very strong awakening, a very powerful awakening. But it's not an internal feeling. Ki'ima Hispal is the kid that had. This is in Yiddish again. It's not that he feels it internalized and integrated. It's not an internal sense. It's an emotional sense. It's an emotional reaction instead of an internalized one. So he's giving a different scenario now. Valkain Hispilus, and therefore, this excitement is not organized. It's not graded, but a very powerful urge. It adds, this is just in case someone may wonder, this is coming from the soul. And he's very, very not happy, not content. And cannot find any peace, soul peace. Nefesh cannot find any peace at all. And if he was able to leave his body, he would very much desire that. But what does he desire? To push everything, to put everything away, to throw everything away, and can be completely separated from anything that is materially connected to his body. All the body matters. And only this brings him peace. The question is, how is this different than the first method? The first method, he also spoke about being disturbed by the not good of the opposites.
I thought this one down into particulars.
But this one looks to me a lot more focused on the negative, that this whole, anything that's not divine is disturbing him. It's a little more than, the first one also you have that element. But let's continue, maybe he'll distinguish. And this means that this desire that he has in this moment to throw everything away, it's like self-destructive. The truth is, it's only an illusion. It's only a pretense that he's making believe that he wants to throw everything away. He's saying that it's only like it's not real. It's just what in his mind is delusionally thinking this way, and this is what brings peace to his soul. The kol zehurak l'shaita. All this is only temporarily. And when this awakening leaves him, when he no longer when he so-called when this spell leaves him, or he leaves the spell, this awakening, or this desire, or boil yoni haguf, and he return and comes to the matters of the body. You don't find any residue, any after effect from this previous desire, this previous awakening. In truth, this is what it should be like, real tshuva. Real tshuva is that you have to throw your whole life away. But that's when the tshuva is from the nefesh habamis, not from the nefesh elokis. So when nefesh habamis is doing tshuva, it should be ready to throw everything away. The kasher nefesh habamis nasli tzam in yonov, when the animal soul is distressed from its matters, and wants to throw everything away from him, within him, from across him. There the intention is on the grossness, on the coarseness of the nefesh habamis. Because the animal soul has no desire to leave completely, to not live. Because the nature of the nefesh habamis, as we said, is like a behemoth, is to go downward. And therefore, when the nefesh habamis, the animal soul desires to throw everything away, everything that he has away, that means to throw away, to leave, and to throw away his coarseness. You see, nefesh habamis does true, but that's good that it should throw away its coarseness. But the nefesh habamis doesn't want to leave this world. V'zet tev, and that's good. But when the divine soul wants to throw everything away, that's not true. That's not a true thing. Because in truth, he just wants to leave the body, but he just can't. That's why it comes with the desire to throw everything away.
Talking about suicide here.
In a way, yeah. But like spiritual suicide, yeah. But so he's saying it's not that he really wants to. He wants to just go back to his natural place of spirituality. So you see, a nefesh habahamis by nature can never throw its life away because it wants life. Its whole point is life. Nefesh halikis also doesn't want to throw its life away. It just wants to get out of the body, and therefore it has no other way. So it's ready to throw everything away. It's just qualifying that. So that's not healthy, and that's not a humanity. Ayin Beis. It does not have in itself any defined any limits. Because in concealed fashion, not this alone is his true will. Not this alone is his true will. Okay. He's saying there's no limits, meaning his real will is not to throw away everything. His real will is to get out of here because he hates it. Because he cannot take anything that's opposite of the divine. But concealed, that's not alone, that's not his real ratzon. This is his true will. So it's only an awakening. The Ayin Beis amiti doesn't have a real truth to it. Like when we say tefasta meruba, when you try to grab it all, you won't grab anything at all.
The paragraph of that parentheses is very different.
Exactly. Ayin Beis has a b'chinas seseres levad. Ayin Beis amiti tefasta meruba tefasta mitzvos. In other words, what's wrong with it is going on like this. Since the soul is just an absolute kiss, is just in its wants to get out, so it goes to an extreme. The extreme is I'll throw everything away. Instead of going with an approach, which of course is not going to work. That's why he says it's not true, and it goes away. When the seseres goes away, he's back to square one. That's what he said before. There's no ration, nothing is left over. So it doesn't work. So the fasta meruba, this grabbing it all by saying, let's just get out of here, doesn't end up accomplishing anything because he's just trying to get out of here. And that's why when he leaves this moment of awakening, and especially after some time passes, after some time passes, nothing remains from the original sensation. And he doesn't have all the ability to control and govern the spirit of his desires. Or he doesn't even think about it at all. To govern and control his nature. And the reason for this is because they said this awakening only came from the neshama alone, and had nothing to do with the body. So I just want to sum this up because it sounds a little like a lot of things going on here. There's a certain qualifications. If you're separated by paragraphs, it'd be a little easier to understand. Basically, in the second method, he's basically saying, the second reason for tshuva, that is coming from a very strong desire. He really feels terrible about anything that is opposite of God. But it's not a pnimistic, it's not an internal feeling, it's more of an emotional reaction. It's like an emotional reaction when someone has something to something, very strong reaction. So if you had two people reacting to something bad, one person yelling and screaming, the other person is calmer. So initially you'd think the one that's yelling and screaming is much more disturbed by it. But then after he finishes yelling and screaming, you see he just goes away and doesn't do anything to repair it. The other person is methodically thinking, what can I do now to fix the situation? That's the scenario. So this neshama, what's doing is in its spiralus, it's completely consumed with it, but then, and it wants to throw everything away, wants to kill, like whatever, wants to throw everything away. So he says that's not real. It's not real. Because you see, the bottom line is what happens afterwards. Once he's no longer excited, you don't even see anything in him to want to do anything about it. It's like it never happened. Which means it was just his excitement at the moment, nothing to do with the kavanah, where the other person is sitting and figuring out, there's a primisdika feeling about it, what can I do? And that's going to be a lasting strategy. So this soul, all it did was yell and scream, let's get out of here, I want to get out of here, ready to throw everything away. So if it was the nefesh, then he qualifies just as an aside, just to qualify, throwing things away is good, but the nefesh habama should be doing that. They're saying, I don't want to have the coarseness and the grubkite and all the stuff. Because nefesh habamas are not concerned about throwing away, being destructive. Because nefesh habamas has never an interest to leave its life, to give away its life. Now nefesh kis also doesn't want to give away its life, but it's become desperate, it's become so excited about it and so emotional that it just says, let's throw everything away, and ends up to fast the yelling and screaming it didn't help anything because you didn't get anywhere. If you would have not yelled so much and you would have just said, let's figure out how to do something about this. Let's go ahead. I'm just elaborating. So there's different aspects of here that are relevant here. I just want to say one more thing before we continue. Maybe this will help what we spoke about earlier. Here you see clearly saying nefesh elokis. There's no question about it. He's actually mentioned nefesh elokis, nefesh habama specifically. You have to understand, only God is God. After Hashem, God, Atzmus, chose to create and to transmit earth. So before the Tzimtzum, you have a world where everything is submerged. There's no world, actually. It's all a potential state. So there's altogether no issues at all. As soon as you have a Tzimtzum, everything gets affected. Even the divine energy gets affected. The Kav is now a narrow ray of light. You have world where there's energy and there's no containers. There's world where there's too much energy in the containers and they all shatter. There's all divine things going on. There's no Ra. It says till the Elam Abriya, and Elam Abriya begins Miktzas Ra, concealment. You have no concealment really in those higher levels. So I think you have to readjust when you talk about nefesh elokis what you're thinking about. We're talking about nefesh elokis as a divine force, but it's existent now in a world where there are other factors involved. So there was nothing else. There was no kalim. There was no body. There was no chavchen. The nefesh elokis would do exactly what Ur does. It would follow what God wants. But it's now thrust into a foreign world. The nefesh elokis is not ready for this world. That's why it doesn't want to come here. It never wants to be here. So you're not dealing with a nefesh elokis that has fundamental flaw within it. It's divine. But it's a divine that doesn't know how to deal. Remember we spoke about the Nephilim? Mm-hmm. These were great energies. They're great in heaven. They come down here and they've got a big problem. And they become the worst of them all. The nefesh elokis is not like the Nephilim. Because the nefesh elokis, as he says, retains its divine nature. Even when it goes down below, it's still a neshama. But in a subtle way, when a neshama comes to this world, especially in its early years, that's why it needs to be protected by its parents. It doesn't know how to deal with this world. So its first reaction could be anger even. Could be emotional reactions. It's not a mature, it has to learn the ropes, so to speak. And it has to learn, So its bittul that it had in heaven is not enough for it down below. Down below it gets confused. And it's possible for neshama, meaning, and we're talking about the person reacting to his neshama, just to, like he said in the first method here, just to say, I want to get out of here, and not give a cheshbon, and not be calculated, not be, you need to have a maturity Rashbi, the 12th year, he came out of the cave. He could not repair the world. Everything he looked at burned. Now Rashbi, you're talking about Rashbi. He's talking about one of the greatest neshamas ever. It says that by Rashbi there was no churban beis hamikdash. He's like from Lifnei Atzimtzum. And yet, when he saw pettiness, couldn't handle it. So he had to go back a 13th year, now to go back and repair. So suddenly, what happened there? It wasn't his nefesh habamis. It wasn't like, oh, his animal soul was affected. It was his nefesh halakis was too pure. Like the Meraglim didn't want to go into Eretz Yisrael. Again, it did not come from the nefesh habamis. There is, nefesh halakis can ultimately start behaving like a yesh if it does not have maturity, does not have proper bittul, proper patience, because it can get excited. It sees the Meraglim went to Israel. They saw the giants. So all the promises God made, all the miracles that happened, suddenly fell aside. They said, wow, we can't do this. Eretz Yisrael, this land is too great for us. It's a land that consumes its inhabitants. You see it again and again and again. You constantly have what? Noach was in the Teva. So initially he didn't want to go. Then once he was in there, he didn't want to leave. So Hashem has to command, same in Teva. You always have these type of things. Nadav and Avihu in the Mishkan. So then Hashem says, Ayin Beis, this speaks Parsha. It says, you can't go in. Here's B'zeis Yaveh. You can't just go into Kodesh Kadoshim whenever you want. You have to know how to go in, when to go in, and so on. And in general, the whole process of education, we talked about examples of teacher. A teacher, in his enthusiasm, wants to teach a student. And he's so excited, but he doesn't have experience. He starts teaching, he's just so excited, and the student doesn't get excited. So he gets even more excited, he gets angry.
Mm-hmm.
Where is it coming from? It's coming from a good intention, but it's coming from immaturity or inexperience. I'm not talking about his nefesh habamis has taken over where he's getting angry because his animal soul, whatever. I'm talking about it with pure intentions. He has to learn the discipline. There's a container. We have to figure out what the container can do. Parents do this all the time with children. You can overwhelm your children. You have good intentions coming from love. Now, obviously, sometimes the nefesh habamis gets mixed in, and you have to know when to distinguish. But let's just, even for argument's sake, say it is a parent coming from a good place, but the child can't contain it. You know, so we don't have to go to extremes. There's ways that can be contained and ways that can be contained. That requires much more. That's what he calls it a spilus dika deadhead or a primus dika deadhead. The spilus dika deadhead is an emotional reaction to a situation, and a primus dika one is a internalized one, is a seasoned reaction. A seasoned person reacts differently to something than an emotional person does. Now, it doesn't mean a seasoned person can't get emotional. And sometimes, the Rabbi would say sometimes when it hurts, you cry out, you scream. But it doesn't stop there. You come up with a plan. If you just scream, then, the screaming, and then the screaming is over and you go to sleep. The point is the need for both. Now, the key thing that has to be understood that this second type of tshuva has elements of the first. There's a lot of overlap. But I guess let's continue. So bottom line is, there's all this excitement. When it's over, it's as if nothing happened. And he cannot control his desires. That's the bottom line. Whenever Shabbat is in its full intensity, because the neshama's reaction was all about itself. I'm emotional. I can't stand this place. It's negative, etc., etc. That's because the awakening came from the neshama alone and had no relationship with the body. The negative, what he doesn't like, it felt internally. I'm sorry, my correction. He has no connection to the body. What does that mean? It means if the divine soul, the neshama, would have felt it b'pnimius, then he wouldn't have just gotten excited and then it would pass as if it didn't happen. If he really cared about the darkness that he's running away from and ready to throw everything away, he would say, I really cared. Let me look what I can do about the body. And he also doesn't sense the goodness that comes from the body. There's a virtue, there's an advantage that comes from the body, which is the mitzvahs that you can do, mitzvahs that you cannot do without a body. Etc. Also, the study of Torah and all good things in this world are through the body. You can't do anything good in this world without the body. Shekol hahergesh hazeh ein loi oz sheyirtze b'zeh. Shekol hahergesh hazeh ein loi oz sheyirtze b'zeh. Yeah. All these feelings, in other words, sensitivity and empathy for the body, in recognizing number one is something that's not good, that you should really bother you and do something about it. And that which is good, also not sensing it, all this the soul doesn't have at that time, that it should want it, they should desire it. And the body has no part, the body has no part in this whole awakening and inspiration and excitement, emotional reaction of the soul, that he too should be awakened to tshuva, the body. That would be the best sign. If your neshama got awakened in tshuva and then the body also wanted to, meaning Nefesh Habamis also participated, then you know that you're getting something. Because when the awakening of tshuva and the divine soul is an internal one, from an internal feeling, that really bothers him, the not good, that the details of his life really bother him in the details that come from Shemitzad and Nefesh Habamis. If it really bothers him, and that's when he makes an honest accounting in his nefesh, in his soul. Makes an accountant, an honest soul search. And with a strong dedication, a strong commitment, strong applying himself very strongly, as a pale bittul gadol by nefesh habamis. That would affect a deep bittul, a deep sublimation of the animal soul. If the neshama actually did that. That would be again like a teacher sees the students are not behaving, he yells and screams at them, and then he leaves. And another one says, let's sit down, I care. Let's see what we can do. So the reaction of the students is going to be a lot different than the first one, obviously. What's emes? Amas, a body of water. A flow of water. Yeah. Like as you know, the example for this from a flow of water, Amas is flow.
It's not a
Like
flow.
a river.
Stream? Not even a stream. Like when you build irrigation, irrigation canal.
Oh, like a canal.
Like a canal, yeah.
Amas Hamayim, like a canal. So when you block it, when you put up a block, how do you sheveres es astima? So with the pressure that the water builds up will break through the blockage. Levad mashal lekeches astima ita. Besides the fact that it'll also carry along with it the block itself. Let's say you put up a little dam, so the stones or whatever, once the pressure breaks, the stones will also become part of the. Well, Kamei Kain, what's the mashal? What's the nimshal? The example goes like this. So Kamei Kain, is when the divine soul is distressed and in the concealment, in the confines and in the concealment of the animal soul, when the divine soul leaves and is freed from this confinement, as a sheveres achumnis va'ivius the nefesh habamis. It actually breaks.
I don't think it's confinement, it's more constriction.
Okay.
Because confinement is like he's totally in jail, he's like in prison. He's confined to an area you can't get out
Okay,
of.
constrict is fine. How does a sheveres achumnis va'ivius? It breaks the grossness and the thickness,
Crass.
the crassness.
I heard that word last night.
That's good,
It's a very good
crassness.
word.
Okay. The crassness of the divine, of the animal soul. I like that, crassness. That it should be, that it should battle.
It becomes nullified.
That its essential crassness should be nullified. So in other words, that's the moshel. So the moshel is like this, which is also one of the reasons. The nefesh elokis comes inside the guf and nefesh habamis, the body and the animal soul. The reason for it is several reasons. Sometimes it says to reveal deeper strengths in the soul. Sometimes it says in order to refine the body, and through the body it gets a higher kavanah dir b'tachtim. Now, in this case, the scenario who's talking here, you have the neshama who's not doing that. It's just yelling, it's screaming, it gets very excited, doesn't want to be here. That passes, and bottom line, doesn't affect the body at all. If the neshama would apply itself and have a real hergish primi and understand why it's here, remember, like we said before, make a cheshbon tzedek, Number one, what could I do to make things better? Number two, what's the goodness? Why I've been sent here? So then I would realize that I was sent here because the concealment of the animal soul is not just my enemy. It's to bring out something better in me, which is to be an obstacle that limits me and should generate. It's like a catalyst that awakens a challenge. It's a challenge that brings out the best of you. And when it breaks through. It doesn't just scream and yell, I don't like this dam, I don't like this block, I don't like these obstacles, these constraints, etc., etc. I don't like this crassness. I'm going to use the word. Okay? That's not, it actually breaks through and it weakens, but before he says the sweeping along, it weakens as a result the dam. That's the way it should be. In other words, the other way would be like the water coming to the dam and saying, I don't like this dam and I want to retreat.
But it weakens the objections. That's the muscle of the dam.
Yeah. So the one way would be, I just want to retreat. I don't like, this whole thing is no good for me. I feel I'm locked, I'm trapped, whatever. I want to just leave. And obviously water can't leave, but the muscle would be, an example, soul just doesn't want to, I don't want to engage. But if you realize that it creates more intensity in you, that intensity will break through and weaken and diminish the crassness of the resistance.
And now the next
and then the parentheses adds, and that resistance actually will be transformed. It also becomes part of the soul's energy. Yeah.
And is the Nefesh Bahamas a different? But Mahus is now he now is refined the Nefesh Bahamas, so it's a better. It's never been in such a
it's better. Yes, it is. Yes, it's refining the Nefesh Bahamas. It's like Nefesh Bahamas recognizing to weaken it. Not saying the avoid of it right now, but yes, absolutely, it's affecting it. It breaks through. Remember, an neshama suddenly senses that I'm below here on this earth, and I feel very bitter and distanced from God. And it's really terrible. It's a harsh world. But its maturity, it understands there's a purpose in it. So it creates the neshama, starts creating a competitive energy. His juices start flowing. Like, when you squeeze the olive, it brings out more. It's like an enemy, where it says in the Basel Gani, the mavazbez ha'etzes, when you go fight an enemy, you get the competition to release to the adrenaline, yeah, and to mavazbez, what's mavazbez? To just squander all your resources. So all the strengths, it's like when you have a resistance, I want to win. So the neshama is now wanting to win, actually weakens the nefesh habahamis because the neshama says, I will prevail here. And that weakens the nefesh habahamis. Ube'emes tzarech le'izleimer shagam ha'nefesh habahamis yispol ba'atshuva. Ube'emes tzarech le'is. The truth is, it has to be that also the nefesh habahamis yispol ba'atshuva. That's the muscle. It's not enough that you break through and you're more intense. You also have to cause that the nefesh habahamis should be inspired, should be excited in tshuva. And that's the example that not just does the water breaks through the resistance and the wall, the dam, but the dam and all its elements, the resistance itself is carried now with the water. So it also became awakened now. So the thing that was resisting is now the force that's breaking the resistance in a way. So if there'll be another dam, let's say down the road, these stones of Nefesh habahamis are also part of the process of forward movement, forward progress. Not only is the divine soul distressed from the matters of the animal soul and its concealments, but also the animal soul should be distressed from its state of affairs. And that's true tshuva when it's in both of them. The divine soul and the animal soul. And it's specifically, like you said earlier, it's specifically in the animal soul where you have the sense where it's so distressed, it's so bothersome to the extent they cannot find any peace at all. Because it's the animal soul that was responsible for this behavior. And also because it comes from the klippa.
What's that mean?
I'm not sure. 1 second. In other words, what he's saying is, before we spoke about how the soul gets so excited and wants to get out of here, wants to throw everything away. So we say that's not good because it's not benefiting anyone. And also, the soul really doesn't want to throw everything away; it just wants to get out of here. So when the body wants to throw everything away, that's good. It's throwing away its crassness, its coarseness, which is this, and so he's really just tying it up and saying, so that's where the real tshuva, the real distress, is much more in the nefesh habamis than nefesh l'kiz. Nefesh l'kiz distress is that I'm in this place, but nefesh habamis is the culprit. Remember, it's the nefesh habamis that's actually the force. I would say that the Satan, the Prima, the Shem Shemayim is covered. The tiny he brings, the Nefesh Habamis is sent by God, and it's a shliach to tempt somebody, like this Moshe says of the Zaino, the prophet. But it really doesn't want that. So Nefesh Habamis is very distressed because it's causing a person to do things that are inappropriate. Nefesh Eloki's distress is being there, and being trapped there, being confined there, being limited there. But the Nefesh Habamis is there. So that's where the real pain is. I think what he's adding here, one is psychological, one is like more practical. Psychologically, it's the animal soul that should be more distressed because it's the one that's responsible. And not only because it's responsible, because he's in klipa. That's why he's distressed, because it's not. There's one is that it's because it's responsible for the behavior, but even if it wasn't causing someone to do something wrong, the fact is it's distressed because it comes from the world of klipa. Nefesh Elokiz doesn't come from the world of klipa. That's what I think he's adding.
He hates himself.
Well, not
I'm
exactly.
from Klipa. I caused all this.
Maybe we should stop here. These are long chapters. 1 second. Let me go a few more minutes. Because the divine soul, in truth, not the way the delusion is that the divine soul could have, that it just wants to get out of here, an emotional reaction. In truth, an animal soul not capable of this state of a sense that it doesn't have any peace, for two reasons. Number one, why should it be distressed? It was not responsible for this. And the main thing is, that's the two things. Yeah. And the primary thing is because it's divine in its fundamental nature. So the Nefesh Habamis has both things. It's responsible, and also it's a klipa, so it has distress over that. The Nefesh and godliness, you cannot find such a self-loathing. It says, such a low self-esteem, such a demoralization or such a negative sense of self.
Not capable.
Arab Gefallenkeit is when you feel very bad about yourself. Bazich. So the divine is not capable of such a sense. Because number one, it's not responsible. Number two, it's alakus. So alakus is godliness. Why would godliness feel in any way distress? But the truth is, the pain, the distress, and the negative sense from the things that are not good is deeper, is stronger, and more than the Nefesh Habamis. But he's explaining why. Not because of it's on its own.
Yeah.
Because the Nefesh Elokiz senses the divine will, and these things that are not good are opposite, are diametrically opposite of God's will, of the higher will. And this, the divine soul feels very intensely, very excessively.
Over here it's a meitza, and before it was tzad ma'id.
Okay, it could be gavra and chefza type of thing. The Nefesh Habamis is the gavra is more disturbed, and the Nefesh Elokiz is disturbed by the inyan. Okay, but bottom line is, but the Nefesh Habamis, when he says the Nefesh Habamis before, the real tshuva, he says, Amitzah tshuva, dafke shaykhin zeshet tzarloi. To say that on its own, that I'm the culprit, the Nefesh Elokiz can't say that. But the matzav of Helam, the situation of darkness, the Nefesh Elokiz is more distressed over. Obviously, look, it would be like this. You have two partners. One person is the criminal, or the cause of the crime. The other one is is stuck with him. So the one that's a crime should be the one that feels more guilty and more. But the other one senses it more because he's able to see it and he's more connected to the source, so he's able to sense that this is not a good thing.
Or they have a dispute. One of them, it pains them that they have this dispute. The other one.
And this is excessively felt by the divine soul. The gamba nefesh abamis, because also in the animal soul, because in truth, also the animal soul has to feel how it's the opposite of the divine, the higher will. But the divine soul, because it's divine, it feels it more so. And even more so because of the tumas nafshe, because of the impurity and the contamination of the soul. It's another element here, not just because it's a lakus and it's the higher will, is because the soul gets contaminated by this negative behavior. The animal soul comes from klipa, which is the klipa, the husks, the shells. I think we should stop here.
We could go on to a half hour if you want to finish up.
Okay, let me continue. Okay, fine. I'll do the chapter already. The im hayesh in the parentheses it says Shem Tzad Asmi Hu B'Klipas Nega, and even though that on its own the animal soul is from Klipas Nega, which we know is like not the hardest husks, the most difficult one. It's more the neutral elements in the world that conceal the divine, but are not necessarily evil or prohibited. And through doing things that are not appropriate, even when they are permissible desires. The animal soul, it descends into Ra Gomer, complete evil. And so much more so when it does, God forbid, a sin or transgression. Nevertheless, it's still not similar to the contamination of the divine soul. In other words, even the animal soul also gets contaminated because on its own it's klipas nega. It's concealed but not yet descended into evil. When it does something wrong, it descends into evil, especially if it's a sin. But the contamination is so it gets contaminated, the animal soul. But nevertheless, it's not comparable to the contamination and the impurity of the divine soul. By the nefesh, which is divine, so the contamination of its soul is very much affected. It touches and affects it very deeply. Like it says in Tanya, Sefer Shabbenim, the name for Tanya, the book of Beinim, the Ein Lecha Alvin Godlin is that. There's no greater humiliation, no greater descent, no greater insult. That is because the soul has descended to that point. So, number one, the soul has descended to such extent, to such depths, unfortunately. And also this descent has an impact on God. It causes the Golus HaShechina. Golus HaShechina is the idea where the Shechina, the divine presence in earth, goes into exile, is concealed, and is in pain. And therefore, the meitzat, the confinement, the constraints of the divine soul, he's right. It doesn't say tsar like the meitzat.
Yeah.
Well, we could say also the distress of the nefesh elokis is gadol made is very strong. How would you take alvin dein lecha alvin gadol mizah?
There's no humiliation.
Humiliation is what I wrote. Okay.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, the divine soul is not capable. Is not in a shaykh. Does not have a connection to shiflazu. Doesn't have the shiflas to this lowliness, to this sense of lowliness. This sense of inferiority. That it should not find any peace at all. That the nefesh elokis doesn't have. The nefesh elokis senses and has deep pain over all the elements that he just described. Number one, in the negative,
of a situation
because
like
it's
that.
against God's will. Number two, because it contaminates the soul. Number three, because of the Golus Hashchina that it affects. But to say that it senses that it has this type of sense of low, that's not, because it's not the culprit. It's not the culprit. This sense of loneliness is like the deterioration that comes from depression. But however, the animal soul, that's where you have this low sense of loneliness, because it's responsible for it. And because it comes from the world of Klippa, where things are concealed. That's why its pain, its distress, is such that it does not find any room for itself. It means it doesn't feel comfortable at all. It's like a person who's like, feels I don't belong here, like really feels disturbed. And
Doesn't feel his place.
right, right. No peace at all. Doesn't find his place at all. And with this, the animal soul gets broken fundamentally to the point that it actually changes in an essential way. It brings in Tanya, like an example, that when he's talking about the wood of the axe, the handle of the axe, it says that that from that the axe is made from the thing that will, the tree is made from the thing that will knock down the tree. In other words, an axe needs a handle. The handle is made from the tree. This is the Gemara that says. The Gemara actually brings it in the gate to Chazain Avadja, who was a convert. He gave the greatest prophecies about Mashiach. So it says, because you need someone from the opposite, from Eden, to prophesize about the destruction of Eden. So you need the wood of the tree to cut down the tree. In this case, it's the neshama itself. Its bitterness, its sadness, its loneliness, because it was the culprit, and it comes from Klippa. That breaks it. So it's breaking from within itself. From within itself, Nargan is the Narga is the axe.
With such a deep sense of distress.
Within itself, is made the axe. Axe, the handle of the axe. The tree is cut from the axe.
From the wood of the forest comes the handle of it.
Right. Neobey, from itself, from within itself, from the wood of the forest comes the handle of the axe. As is known by true Bali Tshuva, as opposed to non-trans. That's for sure. That are transformed from one extreme to the other, and change from one essence to another, from one personality to another. Okay, that's just an example. And that's how it's known by Tshuva Amitis. That's what real Tshuva is, where that lowliness is what itself breaks the Klippa, breaks the animals. This is good. This is all good. This is the way Tshuva should be, where there's the Er and Keli joined together, and Nefesh HaLakiz does its part, and Nefesh HaBamis does its part. He just explained in detail how each one has their own particular virtue, and what each one senses, what each one contributes to the other. So the animal soul is obviously senses more the pain because of its being the culprit, and it's the world of Klippa. The animal soul, the divine soul, senses it more because it's closer to the divine, so it recognizes the distance, how it's opposite from God, how it contaminates, and the goal is Shechina. Going back now to the imbalance, but when the tshuva is only from the divine soul alone, he kept saying that earlier. In truth, that tshuva is also not real. No, this state of Imbalance where the soul gets so excited and disturbed by the negative and wants to get out of here. He's saying it's not only that it's not tshuva for the nefesh habamis, even for the nefesh halakis, it's an illusion. It's only a temporary thing. It's only in its illusion. It gets excited, so it appears that it's really disturbed. And that alone, that it's not real, is enough to already cause it to not have any impact in repairing his ways, or ma'asav and his actions, from the animal soul. That alone. And also because, as we discussed earlier, that there's no cheshbon, there's no accountability, and there's no internal feeling. In other words, he's adding one more thing. Before he said that the main problem was that there's no cheshbon, you're not, so there's no real repair. You're just getting excited and you want to get out of here. And number two, there was no internal feeling; it was just emotional. So obviously, he's adding now that even the moment of tshuva that you got excited, the fact that it wasn't real, that alone is already a reason that's not going to go anywhere. And this sensation that comes only from the nefesh elokis has no connection to this animal soul. He's giving now another example. Also, this thing could be like in the avodah of davening. You could have a great awakening by davening from the perspective of the divine soul. And that's also in a form of makif, like he's saying here. In other words, it surrounds him, it hovers. It's not internalized. And has no connection, no relationship at all with the animal soul. And after davening, even a residue, even some after effect does not remain. Even an echo effect doesn't remain afterwards. And that's why when he comes and he approaches or he encounters any desire, any taiva, he's unable to govern, to conquer the spirit of this desire. He doesn't even think at all about controlling himself, of holding back, refraining. Because since he davened was all connected only to the divine soul, therefore when he comes into matters of the body, the soul has no part in it. That it should have an impact on the body and on its nature. So the soul has separated itself. So now the body takes over, the soul has no connection. It's like if you're not thinking about your body, when the soul is not thinking about the body during davening, so when the body is busy with it, it doesn't think about the soul.
It's split personality.
Now this example of tefillah he already brought earlier, if you recall, in the chapter on Torah. There was that chapter on chapter Reish Sadik Ches 298. So he spoke about davening, and he spoke about how the espousal of God has to have an effect, and if it doesn't, after the cholavavcha, they will not have the proper. It'll have the problem. It'll be the imbalance. Okay. The kashem shabi says le'yesh chelik l'nefesh habamis, just like in the awakening during davening, it had no part. Le'yesh chelik, the animal soul has no part in it. Like I just said. And same thing is when he's involved in the Yonei Elam, in the worldly matters, is the divine soul has no part in it. Reminds me what the Rebbe once told somebody, he says, when you're close, you should be distant. You'll be distant when you should be close. Mm-hmm. So like when you speak, when you should be quiet, you'll be quiet when you should be speaking. Same thing, it's always this way. This situation is such, and this means that the soul and body have no relationship with one another, have no connection to one another. Each one stands strong, stands and remains, is rigid, like remains in its essential nature. And Ayin Beis, the soul is excessive ayin, excessive bittul, excessive substanceless. And the body is excessively yesh in itself. Ayin here, yesh here. They have not joined. So the neshama has an awakening, but it doesn't have impact. And both of these are not according to the true kavan at all. Okay, so this is dysfunctional number one. And Kaylee, They don't meet. The wick is here, the container is there. It's not a wick for this. They both have their thing. Now he goes to Beis. We'll already finish the chapter. Beis, dysfunctional number 2, imbalance number 2, will the hepech min hakotza. Is the opposite extreme from the perspective of the container. If you remember, this one, the container becomes too porous. The yesh of the container becomes too much iron. In other words, it gets sublimated and melts into the iron of the neshama.
Doesn't retain its character.
Shegufei b'chinas ban b'gematria behema, that the body, which is ban, the gematria behema, b'chinas bitl hayesh b'kal me'ed. It's easily sublimates itself, very easily. Like someone whose heart is as flexible as a reed, rach, soft, right? Soft as a reed. To return constantly with tshuva, with a true submission, and a broken spirit, a very broken spirit. Very easy for him. It's like a weak-hearted person. It's easy for them to just, you can just easily break them, basically.
Leading heart to a broken.
And also, as he said by davening, also when serving with your heart in davening, immediately his natural heart gets excited, gets affected. One second. That he should also be sublimated before God more than the spilus of the soul's energy.
On its own. That's the word.
Because in the soul, you don't have so much the sensation for it to be truly sublimated. It's the hergish, that's what it is. And the neshama is just naturally connected to the divine. Here, it's a person who has just a weak heart, so it's like the feeling of it is there easily. Baguf in the body and the natural soul. It's interesting why he interchanges the nefesh ativus and nefesh abamis back and forth, different places. Probably the yeshu leiv nishba betzim. They should fundamentally have a broken heart.
Is he is it depressed person?
Doesn't say depressed.
He thinks
no. He says it's weak heart. He says a soft heart. It's a person who probably doesn't have a lot of resistance. Let's continue. Let's see. That's why every divine thing affects it to have it to be sublimated and vashiflus and denigrated and I guess and humbled, very humbled. It's not that the neshama affected it, worked on and affecting and changing the natural soul. It's only what the nefesh ativus has on its own.
Yeah, I think you read it together.
I'm wondering how you read it.
It's not that the neshama affected this condition on its own. It came from the natural heart, from its keli, from the keli part of it.
The neshama didn't do this.
But that's in other words referring to the neshama.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you can make a comma and like Nefesh that's only. Yeah, you're probably right because it reads better. And this spilus of the nefesh abamis, of the nefesh ativus, this excitement, this emotions from the natural soul is not just generally. Oh, I'm sorry, my mistake. This also adds. It not only that it affects it easily and without real work, but this excitement is only from general. The nefesh abamis does not really relate to it in detail. It's just because it's a soft heart, it responded. The animal soul, the natural soul is not capable of an internal comprehension and meditation, and in detail, in an expansive way, in the expansive understanding of the inyan, of whatever it is that we're the future, because it doesn't have containers for it. The chushim, the senses, of the animal soul and the natural soul are not containers l'kabel ezi inyan b'srachvus v'yashvus. Are not containers to receive anything in any expansive and any internalized way. Ki mikuvitz ubatlhu, mikuvitz ubatlhu probably.
Mikuvitz.
Yeah, because it's very mikuvitz is like verquetscht. How do you say verquetscht?
Very compressed.
Very compressed. Ubatlhu and very sublimated. B'chol hakeches and all its faculties ki'ilu einam, as if they don't exist. In other words, it's very weak. It's not powerful. In other words, it
didn't. It's not like he thought.
Only the general sensation and feeling is enough for him to affect already. They should get sublimated, the body and the natural soul. Why? Because it's fundamentally a broken container. In other words, a person who's broken by himself and is weak or soft, so he's naturally capable. Very easy for him to get awakened, but it's not in detail, and it's not internalized, and it's not in any expansive way. And he gives another parenthesis, 2 parentheses in a row. Like a person who's fundamentally is low self-esteem. He finds no virtues, no qualities, no value to himself at all. Shuffle. We're not talking about an anav who's strong and recognizes his strengths. Here's somebody who really feels he's low self-esteem. Like we learned earlier, chapter 277. The difference between an humble person and a low self-esteem person. The anav who an anav is a person who absolutely exists, and he knows his strengths, and nevertheless, he's ultimately, fundamentally humbled. Till the point that he doesn't sense himself as a metzias at all, an existence at all. Like Moshe Rabbeinu, the ultimate anav, the ultimate humble one. He knew his strengths. He knew God chose him. He knew he had qualities. He received the Torah, etc. Took the Jews out of Egypt, led them. But he said to himself, "This is not mine. God gave me these strengths. If someone else would have had these strengths, were given these strengths, they would have been better than me." So he has all the strengths. Hashafel, on the other hand, low self-esteem, a person who feels he's nobody, he's nothing. Look who thinks he's nobody, you know? So this is where the keli is a very weak keli. By Moshe, the keli is very strong. The anav is very strong, but the keli is bottled to the earth in a real way. Like you said earlier about Moshe's neshama and guf. This person, the keli, is a porous keli. You're talking about a wick. Like that, go back to the mashal. The wick is so weak, like a thread, it gets burned right away. Not because the fire is strong, not because it was work, because by nature, this keli is never really a strong keli. And therefore, generally speaking, you can't even, it's not at all really a container.
It's easy to light it, but it also gets consumed quickly.
Yeah. It's like as if it doesn't exist. Like we learned before in this chapter 277, the Moshe shenemer by ish Moshe anav moed keli la'atzmus ain't said. That Moshe, who was the greatest humble one, was a container to atzmus ain't said. Mashenken bebitla keli b'chinas hedrit says ain't b'chinas klikla. Whereas the annihilation or the sublimation of this container that we're talking about that is not existent, it's altogether no keli. It's not a container. You can't call it a container, which is why you can't really light. Even if it lights for a second, you can't really call it a container. So we have the 2 levels of imbalance. Let's read the kitzur, and wow, it's a long kitzur. The summary: V'hine, he said, is the tshuva hu b'beis efanim. The awakening of tshuva is 2 ways. Echad shalei tev le'yesi lamata. He does not feel good about being below the soul. The person, because of the soul. But he's missing what should be. He should have a counting and a feeling in his heart. What is no good? Is it because of the fundamental descent and the concealment and contraction of the soul in his mind and in his heart, and in his mind and in his emotions? So how do you start if he makes this cheshbon, if he makes this accountability? How do you start with his galus sichle u'mideisav alikis? So then he'll work on revealing his seichel, his mind and his emotions, divine mind and emotions. V'yismach nafshei, and it will celebrate He'll celebrate with doing Torah mitzvahs below because dafka there, specifically there, is where you have the essence drawn down. That's one way. The imin halamas v'astadim, and if he gives a cheshbon, he makes a cheshbon and he calculates what exactly is bothering him from regarding the darkness, the concealments. How you start l'saken darke, then he'll work on fixing it. So just to say I don't like it, I'm not happy here, because it's concealed, or because it's concealed, or because the soul is concealed, or because there are actual negative things, not enough. You have to make a cheshbon, and on both matters, and do something about it. And when this awakening, this excitement is without any accountability, without any accounting, then it's just an excitement without any objective and goal, and no benefit. And fundamentally, what it really is, he just doesn't want to be opposite of his name. He doesn't want to get out of his comfort zone by coming down below. Beis, the second type of Yisrael Tshuva. It's interesting. He used here some words that he used in Beis in the actual text. Okay, here's now that this is bothering him as details of things surmarav, things that he's not avoiding evil and doing good. The soul gets very excited about this. If it was an internalized feeling, sensation, then it would be a true and internal tshuva. Return. And it would break the crassness of the animal soul. And also the animal soul does not feel good at all and does not find any peace. And the parentheses he adds, and we explained that the divine soul, its pain, she's sad now, he says, not sad with a resh, sad the guy resh. Its pain is very intense, very great, because it's being the opposite of the divine will, the higher will. And from the descent and the contamination of its soul, God forbid.
It's pain about the situation. That's
right. Nevertheless, because the divine soul is divine, you can't say it has that spirit falls. Such it feels such a loneliness. Such
a type.
Such a lowliness, such a sense of loneliness, and that does not find any peace in itself. Here he says the opposite direction, the opposite order. The animal soul, because it comes from klipa and it's responsible for this, that the pain is that it does not find any peace for itself. That's the parentheses. Okay, so that really makes this like more somewhat of a tangential or a footnote in the whole topic. Going back to before the parentheses, and Nefesh Habamis, when it is also part of the process and has no peace, this causes it to be transformed in its fundamental nature. When the divine soul is just excited alone, it's for temporarily excessively dominating, excessively overpowering, overwhelming. And that desire is to leave the body altogether, or at least to throw all matters of his life aside. And the truth is, it's only an illusion. That's only what he thinks is delusional. And he's satisfied with that. And no effect, no impact is left from this at all. In truth, the real idea of throwing away your life, how did I translate it? Throw away life, throw all the matters of his life away from. How do you touch Meneged? From him, from within him. Yeah. That really is capable, is really shaykh appropriately to the animal soul because it's throwing away all the crassness. Now comes the second type of dysfunctionality. He adds this, he didn't say that inside the text. That the neshama does not feel so much a divine thing. And the body and natural soul are fundamentally, naturally sublimated. And they get excited very much by anything that's divine. And they immediately get extinguished in its presence, as if they don't exist. And the excitement is just from the general thing, not from, because it's not a container to actually receive. He added something here. He added that the neshama is not, this is like a lower neshama. The first one was a high neshama, and it's separate from the container, from the animal soul. This one, the neshama is not really revealed much, and the body on its own gets immediately sublimated because it's like a broken heart, or it's a weak presence, a weak container. You see that he doesn't say that before. He didn't say that in the second way. He talks only about the bitlayesh. Interestingly, because that didn't say, and didn't say that in option 2. And option 2 was all about the container being very porous, but it doesn't talk about the soul, the energy being weaker. Why does the energy have to be weaker? Okay, he's just saying that because he did say in the previous chapter that there are neshamas of ma that are stronger and there are souls that are weaker. Just pointing that out. He added some things in this kitchen.
I think it's important to say that because if the neshama is strong, so then that could be the reason why it overpowers the keli. The fact that the keli is porous.
Yeah. I understand that. That's definitely a possibility. Okay, so we conclude here chapter 301, pages 610 through 613.